Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And let me just say at the outset, you humble me with the reception, and I am absolutely confident that this department is well on its way, together all of us, to move forward to make not only our nation, but our world a better place. We are a department with huge assets, and the assets that belong to America in this department are assets which you oversee and which you husband, and which at the end of the day are going to be part of what allows us to take the moonshot to energy independence, and that will help us deal with so many of the challenges that America faces today. So at the outset, I want to say that I am very proud to be your Secretary of Interior, America's Secretary of Interior. Thank you. Thank you. Less than 48 hours ago, we witnessed one of the most defining moments of our history with the inauguration of President Barack Obama as the 44th President of the United States of America. As President Obama said in his inaugural address, this is a moment of opportunity for our nation, an opportunity to remake America, an opportunity to inspire a new ethic of public service. This is why I am so excited and so honored to stand before you today, addressing the employees of the Department of Interior as the 50th Secretary of this department. I believe that through our service together, we can remake America and we can change the world. At the outset, I want to thank several people for their work and for their support. I want to thank former Secretary of Interior Dirk Kempthorne for his help and helping me personally in this transition. I also, very importantly, want to thank all the men and women of the National Park Service and other bureaus who worked so tirelessly to make the inauguration one of the greatest successes in the history of humankind. It is hard, frankly, for me as I've gone around the city and meeting with President Obama to fathom how it is that we here at the National Park went through essentially hosting almost 2 million people from all over the world and here in America. To fathom the logistical challenges of that number of people on a national park in one day is an incredible thing to imagine. What happened on Tuesday, frankly, was a great success. Almost 2 million people, not a single arrest is what I have heard from our parks police. It tells you something about Americans. A great celebration of democracy. And I want to commend Peggy Odell, the Regional Director of the National Capital Area, for her great effort in getting it done. I also want to thank the U.S. Park Police. They have the security and public safety responsibilities, as you all know, for our national monuments and our national mall area. We do not take for granted their professionalism and their sacrifice to keep us all safe. Sal Laurel, the chief of the U.S. Park Police, and his force did one extraordinary job on Tuesday and the days leading up to it. I would also like to commend the fine work done by the Department of Interior's transition team as we prepare to take office. It is remarkable that with every new president, the entire leadership of the government of America changes. And with a department that is as large and as complex as the Department of Interior, it is important that there be as seamless a transition as possible. I want to thank Larry Jensen, the leader of the transition team, and all the Bureau transition team leaders who have assisted us in assuring that we had this seamless transition. You have helped us make it possible for us to hit the ground running. To serve in President Obama's cabinet as your Secretary of Interior is a humbling honor. My roots in the West stretch back for 4 centuries to when my ancestors first came to New Mexico. I grew up in the San Luis Valley in southern Colorado, about 265 miles south of Denver, on lands that my family has farmed and ranched for over 5 generations. My family's livelihood depended on the health of our land. Our parents taught us about the importance of water and about the importance of land because the sustainability of our family depended on how we took care of our land and our water. They taught us that we have to be responsible stewards of the water, soil, and wildlife around us so that we can preserve the balance that allows us to ranch and to farm generation after generation. This sense of stewardship is the foundation for my deep appreciation of all of our lands in America and of our beautiful planet Earth. Our nation's parks, refuges, forests, rivers, and seashores are all national treasures. Those who work in this department have a sacred trust to protect and conserve and enhance these treasures as an inheritance for generations to come. As President Obama said in his inaugural address, we live in a time when changing the way we do business is not simply an option. It is a necessity. Our country faces its biggest challenges in more than a generation. There is much reason, however, for hope in America. And that hope in America lies in the hearts and minds of the people of this great nation and in the hearts and minds of the people of this department. The Department of Interior is playing and will play a huge role in the future in this change that will come to America. As I told the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee during my confirmation hearing, my priorities are many, and I want to go through some of them here this morning. And one of those priorities will be to lead the Interior Department with openness in decision-making, high ethical standards, and with respect for scientific integrity. In the last few years, this department has suffered because of ethical lapses and criminal activity at the highest level. That doesn't mean to say that the people of the Department of Interior are bad people, because they are not. But you know how one apple in a bushel can spoil the whole bushel? There has been essentially a picture of this department which has been painted unfairly on the backs of career employees because of actions of political appointees, and that era is now changing, and it starts today. My background as the Attorney General of Colorado was to be the chief law enforcement officer for the state. I loved that job because it was about making sure that we were protecting the people of my state and that the 14,000 law enforcement officers that I worked with every day were doing everything they could to protect the people of the state of Colorado. My chief of staff, who is with me here this morning, Tom Strickland, during that same time period was the United States Attorney for the state of Colorado. As a former United States Attorney, and me as a former Attorney General of the state of Colorado, we and those who work in this department will make sure that we follow the high ethical standards that President Obama outlined in his first press conference yesterday at the White House. We will follow the law. We will hold people accountable. We will expect to be held accountable. And we will not tolerate the type of lapses that detract and distract from good, honest service to the American people that this department does every day. I pledge to you that we will ensure the Interior Department's decisions are based on sound science and the public interest and not on the special interests. And I want the public to be proud of the department's work. And I want those who work for the department to be proud of their service. Above all, I want you to know that your secretary is proud of you and respects the work that you do to serve the American people. In our work together, in the months and years ahead, I want to transform this department from what has been perceived as a department of the West to the department of all of America, because we are a department that has a global footprint and indeed very much a footprint in each of our 50 states and each of our territories and insular possessions. The truth is, the department and its agencies touch all of the people of America. It protects the treasured landscapes of our country from coast to coast. It provides the bulk of our energy that heats our homes, our businesses, powers our commerce, and essentially provides our way of life here in America. This department and its assets provide water to drink and to fuel agriculture and industry to a great bulk of this nation. It provides vital, key, essential, important services to our first Americans, to the Native Americans of these United States. It provides places where we preserve our history and we honor where we have come from, and educates us about our diversity across this great country. This department provides and leads the efforts to make sure we're protecting habitat for fish and wildlife critical to protecting the ecosystems of this world. And this department provides the science to guide the management of all of those duties and decisions with respect to those duties on an ongoing basis. So whether your job as employees of this department involves protecting wildlife or issuing leases, preserving history, or providing water, I urge you to think of your mission as part of a mission of a new Department of America, this Department of Interior. Whether you see yourself primarily as a manager, scientist, an environmentalist, or an advocate of more energy development, whether that be renewable energy like solar and geothermal or wind, or the balanced development of our oil and gas resources or resources such as coal, I urge you to see how we move forward with that agenda and how that agenda fits in to the vision of our president with the kind of government that we want to have. I am open to your ideas on how this department, for example, can be a model for national service. President Obama has given us work to do and to do it right away. In the coming weeks, the new administration will be creating with Congress a new strong economic recovery plan that helps create jobs, to build our clean energy economy for the future, and to remake America. I have worked on that plan, and I can tell you that the Department of Interior will be an essential part of that economic recovery program. The package, which will take formation and hopefully will be completed here in the several weeks ahead, will include what will be a historic first-time investment in our national park systems, in our dams, in our trail systems, and other aspects of this department. So as that takes formation, it's going to give us all who are assembled here today and those who are watching across the country a great opportunity to do those things that people have dreamt about but simply have not been able to do over many, many decades. For example, when we think about the centennial of the national park system in the year 2016, I want our national park systems and our treasured landscapes to be the best that they have ever been. And this economic stimulus package will help us move in that direction in a very important way. The stimulus package as well will move us forward into this new energy frontier. You have seen some of what the Congress has already done in its reaction to the framework that we are working on. But when we're talking about the siting of renewable energy facilities such as solar or geothermal or wind, or the transmission lines across our public lands that will bring that energy to the places of where it's going to be used, there will be significant investments in much of that as we move forward with this economic recovery program. Let me just say that as we participate in the economic recovery effort for America through this economic stimulus package, we will have a responsibility in this department, a major responsibility in this department, to make sure that these historic dollars are used wisely and appropriately and efficiently to do the very best we can with our mission. We will show the American people what investments we are making, and we will be prepared, we will be transparent, and we will be accountable for how we use these dollars. President Obama and I have discussed other goals. I will say this, the discussions about whether you take on a secretarial position are discussions between a president and someone like me. In my case, I can tell you, being a United States Senator for Colorado was a blessing of a lifetime. It is difficult for me, essentially, as on January 20th, as I sat there and I wrote my letter of resignation to the governor. As I said to some of you yesterday, most people said to me, the only way that you should resign a U.S. Senate seat is if you were going to be Secretary of State or Attorney General. The other departments are not that important. And I said, but there is one other department that is as important, and that's the Department of Interior. So as I made that very important milestone decision of my life with President Obama, we talked about what our priorities would be. We talked about what my priorities would be and how I would work with President Obama in implementing those priorities, and let me just review what some of those are. First, we must help our nation reduce its dependence on foreign oil. That is an absolute imperative of our times. I have sat on the Senate Finance Committee and on the Senate Energy Committee for the last 4 years and have worked on these issues even before that time. And I can tell you that there are inescapable forces upon America today that will make sure that we don't step backwards at all in the way that we did in the 1970s and in the 1980s. Many of you in this room will still remember when Richard Nixon in the early 70s, as President of the United States, coined the term energy independence because of the formation of OPEC. And you'll remember that nighttime address in the late 70s by President Jimmy Carter, where he called us to take on energy independence, as he said, and I quote, with the moral imperative of war, with the moral imperative of war. Well, if you look at the budgets in terms of what's happened in the whole renewable energy future, the fact is that it peaked in 1979, 1980, and then it disappeared. And so America slept through the 1980s, it slept through the 1990s, and it slept until we have now awakened it. And we have awakened it at a time where the forces are different than they were back in the 1970s. Today, I think there is a recognition among Democrats and Republicans, among progressives and conservatives, that we must set America free. And we will set America free because the inescapable forces that drive us to this new reality are upon us and our children and our grandchildren. And they are very simple. First and foremost, our national security. When we think about Hezbollah and Hamas and organizations that are out there trying to destroy our way of life, who are putting our troops in harm's way in Afghanistan and in Iraq and in many other places around the world, where is that money coming from that is fueling that war against America today? Much of that money, frankly, is coming from the oil that we are buying here in the United States of America today. So our national security requires us to move forward to energy independence in a real way. Secondly, our environmental security requires us to move forward as well. It was not so long ago when there were big debates on the floor of the U.S. Senate, where there were a number of colleagues in the U.S. Senate who basically said that global warming was really not an issue, that we were just in a dry period of time. And yet, just in the last 4 years, you have witnessed what I have witnessed. But as you saw on the campaign trail with my good friend, now President Obama, and my other good friend, Senator John McCain, there was a lot of conversation about the reality of global warming and the fact that we had to do something about it. And at its key, what we do about global warming is what we do with our energy future, and that's an inescapable force. And thirdly, we have great economic opportunity here at home. If we move forward with an energy agenda that is a true energy agenda that can create economic opportunity here at home, because we will be spending those dollars here in the United States of America instead of sending hundreds of billions of dollars back to the Middle East and other places where they have the oil reserves. Now, as we move forward into that whole energy future, it's going to be very important for all of us to understand that our oil and gas and coal resources are very much a part of the equation of that future. Okay? We cannot get from here to there without, frankly, moving forward with the oil and gas resources that we have here in this nation, both on our lands as well as in some selected areas in the offshore area. And we cannot move forward simply by turning off the lights today and turning off all the coal-fired power plants, but we can move forward with carbon capture and sequestration and clean coal technologies, a whole host of other things that we will do. So, as I spoke about coming here to the Department of Interior with President Obama, I said that I would do it with him, because together, this time, we are going to take the moonshot on energy, and we are going to become energy independent, and we're going to set America free once and for all from our addiction to foreign oil. And I need your help to get that done. You going to help me? We must also do a lot more with a whole host of other issues, including dealing with our water issues, not only in the West. It used to be that most of the issues were out in the West on the Colorado River and a whole host of other projects that I have worked on in the past, including the Animas Plata project and Colorado River, South Platte River issues, all across the West. But the reality of it is, yesterday I was getting calls about a major dispute going on in the Southeast, and there are major interstate disputes that we're going to have to deal with. And I know that this department is well poised with its leadership and its expertise to help us resolve many of these conflicts that we have with respect to water. Let me also say that our Native American communities are very important to us. We have over 500 tribes across this country. This department has a sacred responsibility assigned to it by law that says we have the trust responsibility for the Indian tribes of America. That will be a high priority of mine, and I look forward to working with those of you who work in that part of the department and with the new Assistant Secretary for Indian Affairs as we move forward with that agenda. I have a longer speech, but I think I'm going to go to the end so you can ask me questions. Finally, let me just say a few words about public service. My father, Henry, was a staff sergeant in World War II, and he was poor. My mother was, at the age of 19, she found her way on the train across the vast lands of this country to come here to Washington to work just a few blocks from here at what was then known as the War Department, and she worked there for 5 years as a very young woman. And they instilled in us the values that have gotten me to where I'm at today. They instilled in us the love of education, the love of family, the love for our community, the understanding of the importance of our land and our water. And the place where I come from is a very spiritual place as well. In the San Luis Valley, at an average elevation of about 7,700 feet across what is the highest alpine valley in the United States of America. Off to the west, there are mountains that are named the San Juan Mountains after St. John the Baptist. And off to the east, as the sun comes over and has its crimson colors of morning sky, those mountains are named the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, the Blood of Christ Mountains. And so it's in that place where I had my values molded into me in terms of my work for public service. They were values that were given to me by my father and my mother and the generations that came before me. And so my mission is a very simple mission. It is to simply try to do my small part in making the world a better place for all of humanity and for our children and for our grandchildren to come. And as I began my first days here at the Department of Interior, of this I am sure that whatever small part I play in making the world a better place and changing the world for the better, working with President Obama to get that done, that I can only do it with the men and women of America's department, the best department, the Department of Interior. Thank you all very, very much. All right, so this is not just a lecture from me. So you guys, and I think there are, I don't know how many thousands, but lots of people who are also watching this, I think, through video across the country. So happy to take questions. Who wants to go first? Yes, up here in the front row. And you know what, there are microphones, so maybe people can come up. If you want to ask a question, just come up and line up right here so we can get this thing going here with some questions.
Congratulations, Secretary. I'm John Alexander, Office of Law Enforcement and Security.
John.
And I'd like to know regarding energy independence and various developments and enhancements, do you anticipate working more closely with the Department of Energy and the new administration of Dr. Stephen Chu?
Thank you, John. That's a good question, and the answer to that is absolutely yes. Dr. Chu and I have met a number of different times to already discuss energy issues. We were together yesterday as we were sworn in, and we are committed to working on this agenda together. The reality is that the energy issue spans across several departments. In the prior administration, I worked some with Secretary Bodman in the Department of Energy on some of the issues that they were working on. But I also know that the Department of Commerce has a significant role in the future of energy, and so do other departments. And so what we are going to have to do, and we will do, this is to make sure that we have the right interdepartmental, interagency coordination to make sure that the resources of the federal government are working together in a coordinated fashion to achieve the end goal of getting us to energy independence. So we will get that done in that way, Jack. Thank you. Yes, sir. Oh, you want to go next? We'll go right, left. Go ahead.
Hello, sir. Bob Faithful with the National Business Center. Been with the department since 1978, and I want to congratulate and welcome you. My question really deals with two parts. One, a recent study by Best Places to Work looked at the four natural resources agency, energy, agriculture, interior, and on the issue of diversity. And there was a good cluster in the top 10 among the energy, EPA, and agriculture as 4, 5, and 9, and DOI ended up as number 23. So two parts of the question, sir. Are we looking ahead at ways to enhance our educational partnerships with colleges and schools across the country to help bring in more people from both the faculty and student level to enhance our diversity? Two, are we also looking at reinstituting the executive development programs that the department had for years that allowed individuals like myself to have a chance to step into a leadership role, and that for the last several years have been absent in the department? And you may not have the specifics on those, but I'm interested in your comments about what we can do in terms of helping our organization, which is a great organization, reach all of our employees and make sure all of them reach their best and possible goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob. Bob, those are very good questions, and thank you for your 2-decade-plus service here at the Department of Interior. Let me say this about diversity. There's some of these issues don't come without controversy, but they are real issues that we need to talk about. And the fact is that none of us ought to be proud of the fact that you say we ranked 23, was that right?
30.
23 out of 30 in terms of diversity. We have to do better, and we will do better. And let me just tell you why, and then tell you a part of my work in this and something that I intend to do as well. First, I believe that the strength of America means that we need to make sure that we have an inclusive America. That means that all of America is at the table of what it is that we are doing, no matter what it is that we are doing. And no matter whether you are a white male You must be included. Okay? Does not matter whether you're African American or female or Hispanic or Native American. We are all people, and it is important that we set the example by having an inclusive America in this Department of Interior. And I am absolutely committed to that goal, and President Obama is absolutely committed to that goal across all of government. Okay, and so we will work to make sure that we are moving forward to that goal. Sandra Day O'Connor, in one of her last opinions on the U.S. Supreme Court, wrote about the importance of diversity in higher education. One of the things that she did in that opinion, in one of the paragraphs, has been cited often around the country, where she talked about how diversity was so important to the nation's defenses, to keep us as a strong defense, and cited to the amicus brief that had been filed by the former members of the Joint Chiefs of Staffs of America. And then she also talked about the global economy that we had entered into, and said that the diversity part of what we were, that including diversity in dealing with the global economic issues that we were dealing with was something that was very important, and lauded the diversity efforts that we have, that the University of Michigan was working on at that particular time. So I think she was right. I think Sandra Day O'Connor was right in her opinion. In terms of just one quick example, Bob, of work that I have done in this arena. When I went to the Department of Natural Resources back in 1990, I was told by then it was all my white male division directors. I had 10 divisions in that department, and I was told at the time that they couldn't get it done, that it was too difficult, that we couldn't hire African Americans because they couldn't find African Americans with wildlife biology degrees, or that we couldn't find geologists to come to work in the Colorado Geological Survey. So I said, we're going to do it. We're going to reach out to institutions of higher education, and in fact, we're going to grow our own. So we created a program called the Youth and Natural Resources Program. The Youth and Natural Resources Program has had about 5,000 people go through it. It's been diverse, white males included, about 50%, but members of minority groups, some women as well. Well, many of those people are now back working with the Colorado Division of Wildlife, the Colorado Division of Parks, the Colorado Division of Water Resources. So I intend to take the programs that we already have here in the Department of Interior and putting them at a whole new and higher level in terms of those kinds of efforts. It's something that President Obama and I believe in. It's something that I have charged my Chief of Staff to work on, and so it will be a key part of what we'll do in the future. Yes.
Yes, welcome, Mr. Secretary. My name is Laurent Bielak. I'm the department's strategic planning coordinator.
It's Laurent?
Laurent, right, with the Office of Planning and Performance Management. I know that a lot of us here are definitely pumped up and anxious to tackle the agenda that we have ahead of us. And we know, of course, that the transition team had been poring over a lot of information and issues that are in front of us. I guess what I'm seeing is that quite a few of those issues have a clock running with them, and will require us to have further discussions with the leadership and obtain further guidance and decisions. So I'm just wondering what we could expect in terms of follow-up that will help us to keep the ball rolling to address those strategic issues.
You know, Laurent, first of all, I look forward to working with you and my team as we start putting the team into place, including our Assistant Secretary for Policy Planning and Budget, which we hope to do here in the next, get all of those pieces done in the next several weeks. But you're right, the clock is ticking, and I think the management issues really are going to fall for us all in two categories. The first management issue will be how we handle what's going to be a significant infusion into this department, I expect, of money related to the Economic Recovery Program for America, and how we make sure that those investments are being made in the right way. So there will be a lot of strategic planning and policy that goes along with some of those new opportunities, and that's first up. Secondly, there is a reality that just like the rest of America, the government is also hurting, and just like President Obama has articulated the reality that the times ahead are going to be tough for all of us, and I have no doubt that we are going to have to go through some significant review of our own departmental functions and trying to do it in a thoughtful way as we move forward to try to address a budget which frankly has gotten America into the ditch over the last several years. But my hope is that we'll have, and it may be difficult in this first year, but my hope is that we can have our employees involved with us in this department to try to find ways in which maybe we can continue to do programs in a better and more effective way. And there may be some programs we're going to have to do away with, as we start doing the review of the department. And there may be some difficult decisions. In fact, I expect that there will be some difficult decisions that we will all have to make. But I hope that as we move forward that we'll be able to incorporate the thoughts and best thinking of the employees of the department. Other questions? Anybody on audio, video from wherever? Anybody from California or New York want to talk to me? It's all Washington.
Good morning, Mr. Secretary. I'm Einar Olson with the National Park Service. And
First name?
Einar.
Einol?
Einar.
Spell it for me.
E-I-N-A-R.
E-I-N-A-R.
N-A-R.
Einar. Okay.
Common spelling.
Got it.
It's
almost as hard as Ken, you know.
You're
okay,
right.
Yeah.
I think I got that one down. My question's regarding firearms in the national parks. Given the national parks get 275 million visitors a year, and that the rangers and park police officers are already the most assaultive of all federal law enforcement officers, I want to know what your opinion is on the appropriateness of regulations that allow more openness of firearms in our parks.
Yeah, the issue of firearms is an issue I addressed in the Senate Energy Committee. And let me say, first of all, I grew up at our ranch learning how to shoot a gun probably since I was 3 years old, and have used the gun, frankly, more for protection than anything else next to my bedside, because often I would be out at the ranch or far away from the ranch house by myself, and always had a sense of comfort when I had my gun with me. I'm a defender of the Second Amendment. I know President Obama has a healthy respect for the Second Amendment. On the issue of national parks and the carrying of concealed weapons within national parks, I understand, I've not seen it, but that there was a regulation that was issued by my predecessor. We'll take a look at that, and it's also, I know, a subject of litigation at this point in time, and we'll take a look at it and make decisions going forward, but I don't have an answer for you on that today. Thank you. Yes?
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Sjogren with National Public Radio. I have a question about a number of regulations that the last administration finished that were criticized broadly for weakening protections. They were done by this department. They had to do with a variety of things, whether it was mountaintop mining in Appalachia or the Endangered Species Act. I could go on and on. What will you do about those rules, and which ones will you overturn?
Elizabeth, let me just say, there are good regulations, and there are maybe not such good regulations, and we haven't at this point had an opportunity to really sit down with people who are involved in crafting them and making decisions about how to move forward. So we will do that, and we'll take them, regulations that are on the radar screen, like the ones that you spoke about, and take a look at them one by one. But we are not. I'm not prepared today to say what we're going to do with any of them at this point. Yes.
Hello, Mr. Secretary. My name is Jonathan Dam, and I'm an attorney with the Office of the Solicitor in the Division of Indian Affairs. I'd like to welcome you and thank you for your comments this morning. My question pertains to obtaining, keeping, and promoting public service within the department. Myself and along with many of my colleagues are straddled now with huge amounts of college debt, higher education debt. So my question goes really to a larger issue. It goes to the crisis of the educational system and the cost to obtain an education these days. the Department of the Interior could perhaps take advantage of a loan repayment program, and in the future, I understand that it has. Other agencies in the United States government are able to take advantage of that. And without making a self-interested pitch, I would be I would be so pleased if my colleagues, even if I wasn't around to see it, would one day, understanding that, as President Obama mentioned, we have to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps at this time, even if it didn't happen today, whether the loan repayment program at the Department of the Interior is something you'd be able to take a look at in order to not only obtain but keep qualified public servants.
Jonathan, you raised an excellent issue, and yes, we absolutely will look at that. President Obama has spoken about the importance of education and believes strongly in that and understands the nexus of a quality workforce for the government of the United States of America and what we're doing within the educational system. And so as we move forward and try to put together the packages that will be interdepartmental, but also within our department, we certainly will take a look at the kinds of opportunities that we can create.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Mr. Secretary, my name is Chris Tollerson. I'm with the Fish and Wildlife Service. Welcome, and really appreciate you taking questions from us. It's been more than 20 years now since the Endangered Species Act was reauthorized. I was hoping you could give us your thoughts on the future of the Act and the future of endangered species management in general, given what we all recognize is probably an Act that does need some updating, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay. It's a good question, Chris, and very relevant question to this department and our responsibilities. Let me say first, the Endangered Species Act has worked, and we have many examples where we have seen the ESA working. I was an author and contributor to the creation of the Upper Colorado Recovery Program for the endangered fish on the Colorado River system. I did the same thing with the whooping crane on the South Platte River on an intergovernmental agreement between Wyoming, Nebraska, and Colorado. And I want my children and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren to be able to see part of God's creation. If I can see a whooping crane, I want my children and grandchildren also to be able to see that reality. So on the endangered species issue that people have talked to me about, my view is we have recovery programs which have worked. It's a law that has worked. But it's like other laws. There may be ways in which we can do it better. There may be ways in which we can figure out ways of having the ESA work ultimately in a better way to protect the habitat, which is really what we're trying to do in the ESA to allow the species to thrive. And so it will be on my mind as something that we work on together.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Good morning, and thank you for allowing questions. I'm Susie Settles. I'm the Chief Social Worker for the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and I'm responsible for a program that provides financial assistance and social services to Indians who live on Indian reservations and in Indian land. My question to you is, what is your commitment to the children and the families that our program is set to serve?
Susie, I'm not from, let me just say, the issue that you raised, let me just answer it broadly. My own view is that we need to do a lot more to address our Native American populations across this country that for too long they have been forgotten and left at the back end of the line. And it's time for us to address many of the issues that face Indian country. And from my point of view, as I step into this job, there are a number of issues that we can work on to try to address Native American communities in a very important way. And let me just list a few of them. First, economic development. There are many things that I think we can do with tribes to help on economic development, including as we look at renewable energy resources, whether it's wind in the Dakotas or whether it's sun in the Southwest, how we can create economic opportunity for Native American communities. Secondly, healthcare. I was one of the co-sponsors of the Indian Healthcare Act this last year in the Senate with Senator Byron Dorgan. We need to get that across the finish line and make sure that there is not such a huge disparity that exists as it does today between the health care that our Native American communities get and then the rest of the world. Third, education. We have major responsibility for some 50,000 children in Indian schools that this department has responsibility for. We need to see what we can do, and there may be parts that will help in this economic stimulus package in terms of the reconstruction of some of those schools. And fourth and last, I think we need to make sure that we have the right kind of relationship with Indian tribes across the country, and that's a relationship of respect and of consultation, and we will certainly do that. You know, in my own time as Attorney General of my state, and even before that as Executive Director of the Department of Natural Resources, I helped and worked a lot, for example, on the Animas La Plata project down in southeastern Colorado. And I think in my state, in Colorado, we developed the model kind of relationship between the federal and state and Indian and local tribal governments with respect to a whole host of issues with the Southern Utes and the Mountain Utes. And I hope that we can take that same agenda across the country. So thank you for your questions.
Thank
Susan.
you.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Secretary. Thank you for having this session. My name is Linus Chen. I'm in the Solicitor's Office. Could you elaborate a little bit more about the numerous political appointees that are vacant, who you would fill those slots with? What percentage of them will be coming from previous administrations? How many of them will be from outside? And I guess most importantly, how many of them will be coming from the career people here in the Department of Interior?
You know, Linus, it's a good question. Let me just say that I intend to move forward and have these appointments made and do it quickly so that we can fully function as a department. The department functions, frankly, with those of you who are here who are the career employees. But it is important to bring that leadership, which is essentially the President's designated leadership and the Secretary's designated leadership here as soon as possible, and we will get that done. As part of your, in response to your question in part, what I'd like to do, I was going to do this at the end anyway, but I'm going to do it now, is to introduce a few of the people who you will see wandering the halls, and I will be wandering the halls with them from time to time over the next several days. But first, my Chief of Staff, if you will stand, Tom Strickland. Tom, so everybody can see Tom Strickland. I'll just say Tom, besides having served as U.S. Attorney in Colorado, also has given up a lot in order to come and be part of this mission to change the world, and I'm very delighted that he has joined us. David Hayes. David, if you will stand. Some of you know David. David is the former Deputy Secretary, Counselor and Deputy Secretary for Interior, and his reputation I knew long before actually I came to the department, even before I ran for the U.S. Senate. He fixes problems, whether water issues or lots of other issues. We worked on ALP, did some issues in, I think, Arizona and other places, Great Sand Dunes National Park, a number of things that I worked on, and so he is a problem fixer, and he will be deputy. Steve Black, stand Steve. Steve is my counselor for energy. Steve worked on every piece of legislation that has passed in the United States Congress in the last 4 years with respect to energy, including the 2005 Energy Policy Act, as well as the 2007 Energy Efficiency Act with CAFE and other standards that we put in there. The last legislation, in fact, I think my last substantive vote, close to the last substantive vote in the U.S. Senate just in the last week, dealt with 10 bills, frankly, that he had written, many of which involved his department, but they include making Rocky Mountain National Park a wilderness area, making the Dominguez Escalante area a national conservation area, and I could go on. So anyway, he has a great substance that he brings to the department. Let me see, should I introduce everybody else? David, give me a list of everybody else. Laura Davis, please stand. Laura Davis comes out of Congressman Mark Udall's office. She's coming back here to the department because she said there's only one department she'd come back to, and that's the Department of Interior, and so she will be working with us on many of these issues. Matt Lee Ashley is my communications director, and did that job for me in the U.S. Senate. Joan Padilla, where are you, Joan? Joan Padilla is probably upstairs already scheduling stuff for this afternoon. Renee Stone, where are you, Renee? Where's Renee Stone? There's Renee Stone. Renee, many of you know Renee. You look at her resume, and it's incredible. I mean, it's this Rhodes Scholar. Let me go through your whole resume. You gotta look at her educational background, but she's had an incredible life of achievement, and she's made the choice. Her choice was she could be making $500,000 a year or $1 million working in the private sector, but she'd rather come and work with the men and women of this department because she shares your passion, and so I'm very proud of her. She'll be Deputy Chief of Staff. All right. And I don't know if they are here, but I will just mention them very quickly. Ray Rivera, where are you, Ray? Ray, he's probably he's in the back somewhere. Ray, way in the back. All the way to the back. Doing advance. Ray Rivera is going to be the head of governmental affairs, external relations with governors, attorneys general, Indian tribes, etc. So that's Ray Rivera is already on board. Brian Screener. Brian, where are you? Brian is my White House liaison, and he was with me in a meeting earlier this morning. And then Ken Lane, who is a counselor with me in the Secretary's office as well. So we're getting started. We have some more to go, and we will. Though this is. Let me just say, as we move first in the 100 days, there are lots of substantive issues that we're going to work on, but at the same time, the highest priority for us will be to complete filling the rest of the positions so that we can move forward on the substantive agenda in the most vigorous way that we possibly can. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. Hi, Wendy O'Sullivan with the National Park Service National Capital Region. I focus on partnerships and community engagement. Mine is actually just a fun question. I have a brother who's an attorney in Denver and used to play against you and your Attorney General's team in basketball. And so when I said I was coming here, he said, you know, how fortunate we were to have you leading us. And all of his sense was from what a great sportsman you were and a good team player you were in basketball. So that got me wondering, are you planning to create any basketball interior teams that might go up against the State Department or an energy or maybe even the White House?
Bill. You know, Wendy, this could be dangerous since I serve at the pleasure of the president. But I will say this in public, that we in the Department of Interior will challenge President Obama and his White House team to a basketball game, and I think we'll win.
And to put it
let me ask you, how many of you want to play? As we get our wheels on the ground, make sure you let me know, because I probably will spend some time downstairs in the gym. Secretary Kempthorne showed it to me, so I may be down there tonight, actually. I just need to find my tennis shoes. They're somewhere. Yes. Thank you, Wendy.
My question is perhaps not as fun. I'm Tina Seeley with Bloomberg News.
First name?
Tina.
Tina.
During your confirmation hearing, you said that there should be some parts of the Outer Continental Shelf that should be off limits to drilling. And I wondered, given that, are you looking to substantially alter or revoke the 5-year plan that was put out last week for offshore drilling?
You know, Tina, it's a great question that you ask, and it's something that we will take a look at. In my own view, and what I told the Senate Energy Committee is there are appropriate places in the OCS for drilling, and there are places where we ought not to drill. You know, I was one of the people that helped push opening up the area in the Gulf Coast called Lease Sale 181, because it seemed to me that was an area where we should do exploration and production. There may be other areas within the OCS that should be opened up, and it's something that we will take a look at as part of our comprehensive energy program that will include some of our conventional fuels and resources, as well as some of the new items that will be on the new energy portfolio for the future. She's standing up. So let me take two more. Standing up. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Secretary. Congratulations.
Thank you.
My name is Basil Otley.
Basil?
I'm the desk officer for the U.S. Virgin Islands under the Office of Insular Affairs. We have something in common. I left my Senate seat to come out and work here at the Department of Interior.
But did you make the right decision?
I certainly did.
He left his Senate seat to come work here. So see, I'm not alone.
I just want to put in your mind that to remember us in the Office of Insular Affairs, because we represent Americans, United States citizens who don't have the right to vote for president, who don't have representation in the Senate where you just came from, and have non-voting delegates in the Congress. And I think what happens with our office, we tend to be the only advocate that these small islands have in the federal government. And it's often they're placed in very difficult positions. Like we're in the Caribbean, and there's a lot of assistance coming from the World Bank and from a whole bunch of other international organizations, specifically facing the energy challenges that island nations are experiencing all over. And because of our size, we tend to get lost in the shuffle when the big issues of America are discussed. And this is just a plea for you not to forget the Americans that are out there who love this country, but who, because of size, are perhaps impacted by what's happening in the world more than other Americans. Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Basil, and let me just respond to that. Thank you. The reality is that I think that's another demonstration of the reach of this department, that we really do have a global footprint and are involved in the lives of human beings all over this globe. I met briefly Tuesday night with the governor of Guam, and I know that there is an issue which we are very involved in and will be very involved in with respect to the potential location of 5,000 Marines into Guam. When you look at the population of Guam, it's going to bring about a huge change to that world. And so we will deal with that issue in an appropriate way. I know we are in the midst of doing an EIS with respect to the military request there, but I understand the importance of the role of the department with respect to the insular responsibilities of Interior. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome to the department, Mr. Secretary. My name's Robin Shield. I'm an enrolled member of the Hopi Tribe of Arizona, a federally recognized tribe, and I'm a public affairs specialist for the Office of the Assistant Secretary for Indian Affairs. My mother worked for the Bureau of Indian Affairs in the 1950s and the department with the Indian Arts and Crafts Board in the 1960s. So I'm a longtime civil servant, and I'm glad to be at the department. Two things. One, I'm hoping that along with your energy management or energy development plans, you might also consider how to utilize renewable energy from waste management. That might be like from methane from landfills to use to generate electricity, things like that, to consider those kinds of things, and to cleaning the lakes, rivers, and oceans that tribal communities also depend on, as well as other Americans. But also I would hope that, and I was really encouraged by your comments on working with the tribes and with respect and consultation, I'm hoping that you will be able to move quickly, and the President will be able to move quickly on finding us a new Assistant Secretary for Indian Affairs. The last three Assistant Secretaries, we've unfortunately not been able to have stayed on more than 18 months at a time, and we probably could use some stability in that leadership role. It would be very helpful to us, I think, and just want to encourage you to and the President to move as quickly as possible to fill that position. I know for myself I would appreciate it, and I'm sure there are others that would too. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Let me just say, two responses, Robin. It's a very good question. And first, we are moving expeditiously in finding an assistant secretary for Indian Affairs. We've been working very hard on that for the last several weeks and are getting very close. What happens is it's a presidential appointment. So there's the FBI check and a lot of other things that need to take place. And so hopefully that will happen very soon. And then we'll move forward with the confirmation process in as expeditious a manner as we possibly can. So the answer is that we're working on it. We'll get it done as fast as we can. On the question of energy and bio-waste and how that all fits into the energy portfolio, we're going to have to look at everything. And it's amazing to me when I go to places like there's a brewery up in Fort Collins, Colorado called the Belgium Brewery. They do things like Fat Tire beer and really nice beer that's I think they sell all over the country. Anyway, they have developed a system which is totally energy self-contained, and that's because the algae that they produce essentially is what powers their huge engines that produce the heat then that is needed for beer production. So what I want to just say, is, using that example, is I think the technological frontiers are ones that we will experience in terms of some major breakthroughs with respect to the new energy world that we will embrace over the next several years. Let me, with that, just conclude and ask a couple of quick questions of you. This is a meeting, obviously, here in Washington, D.C., in the Office of the Department of Interior. I understand that there are lots of other people who have been connected up by video. I don't know where you are, but where you are, hello. Thank you, and we got to make sure we get your questions in next time. But for those of you who are here, who I can see, how many of you would like to do this kind of a meeting from time to time to just get an update on what's going on in the world? If you raise your hand. Well, we will plan on doing these kinds of meetings as we can, and I also will tell you that I will be coming around to each of the hallways, to the Assistant Secretary offices, either later today or tomorrow at some point in time. And finally, let me just say to the people who work in this department all across the country, we have a job to do. We have a great job to do. It's an exciting job. And together, you and I and President Obama, we're going to change the world. I promise you. Thank you.